When studying at the National Defense University, my fiancé even gave me a cold warning. When you get to Peking University, register for a dormitory. Don't come looking for me all the time. Song Jinian will be jealous if he finds out. I didn't even bother looking up, just coldly replied with a simple, okay. She didn't suspect at all that I had changed my choice, she continued. Also, on the day school starts, the two of us don't need to register our marriage anymore. Childhood promises don't count. I paused for a moment, then obediently nodded again, without explaining anything to them. I'm going to the National Defense University, thousands of miles away. I had already given up on her long ago. I won't have any expectations for her anymore. After all, her goal and mine are the same, to completely escape from each other and never meet again. Just yesterday, I went to the high school office, teacher train. I've thought it through. I intend to go to university, but I want to change the spot at Peking University to the decryption major at the National Defense University. The late autumn wind carried a chill. My thin frame stood perfectly straight. My gaze was incredibly determined. Teacher Tran was stunned for a moment. Then he was overjoyed. Student Yi Ziyuan, have you finally come to your senses? I thought you were going to give up your spot to your cousin, just because you wanted to marry Ji Yunshu. But the decryption major at the National Defense University is very special. You must erase your identity, change your name and surname. Have you discussed this with your family? There's no need for discussion. I can decide for myself. Hearing the word family, a flash of pain crossed my eyes, but it was quickly replaced by relief once I completely vanished from their world. Perhaps nothing will ever be stolen from me again. Just because my youngest uncle drowned saving me from the river, my parents brought my cousin home, saying I owed him a life, that I must always yield to him to compensate for his loss. My parents gave everything good to my cousin. Even my own fiancé began to love him. Both family affection and love have been stolen from me. Now, to steal my spot at Peking University, my parents are forcing me to agree. Ji Yunshu even offered to register our marriage in exchange. Last night, I lay on my small bed on the balcony, thinking all night. I have finally woken up. This time, I will not yield anymore. Instead, I choose to sever all ties with them. I no longer want to have anything to do with them. Maple leaves are as red as fire. Walking down the cold street, my silhouette looks so lonely, surrounded by workers in blue uniforms heading home. They ride their large-frame bicycles with happy smiles written all over their faces. The bustling, noisy world doesn't suit me at all. A jeep pulls up beside me, blocking my path. Get in. The window rolls down, revealing a beautiful but cold face. Ji Yunshu looks completely impatient. Have you settled things with the school? I remain silent. Of course, I have made things clear, but it wasn't according to Ji Yunshu's command to yield the spot at Peking University, but rather, I'm going somewhere she can never find me. Without waiting for my answer, Song Jinian pokes his head out from the back seat, shaking a bunch of things in his hands. Brother, look, Sister Yunshu bought me so many things. Clothes, shoes, even a radio. She said I can't let others look down on me at Peking University. I stare intensely at the necklace around Song Jinian's neck. My expression changes abruptly. My heart feels as if it has been pierced through. Fresh blood seems to course through my entire body. That is the memento my grandmother left for me, and the token of engagement I gave to Ji Yunshu. I didn't expect Ji Yunshu to be so biased towards Song Jinian, to actually give that necklace to him. Ji Yunshu also notices my gaze. A flash of embarrassment crosses her eyes, but she quickly regains her composure. Jinian liked it. It's not anything valuable anyway. Once we register our marriage, I'll buy you a better one. My heart feels bitter. The necklace itself isn't worth much money. What matters is the love it represents. Unfortunately, in Ji Yunshu's words, it has become insignificant. It makes sense. Ji Yunshu never loved me in the first place, so she wouldn't cherish it. When Song Jinian hears about the marriage registration, a flash of intense jealousy crosses his eyes. He deliberately acts aggrieved. Sister Yunshu, brother seems unhappy. Is he blaming me for taking his spot at Peking University? I'm sorry, it's my fault. I shouldn't have taken his things. I deserve to be unwanted by everyone. Ji Yunshu can't stand seeing Song Jinian sad. Her expression turns as dark as deep water. She glares at me fiercely. Jinian's life has already been hard enough. You have everything. Why must you still fight him for this? She comforts Song Jinian. Don't worry. The spot at Peking University is yours. No one can take it away from you. Walk home by yourself. Reflect on your actions. Once you've realized your mistake, apologize to Jinian. Otherwise, I will never forgive you. With that, she hits the gas, leaving decisively, leaving only a cloud of dust behind. Song Jinian, in the back seat, gives me a smug, provocative look. His face is full of malicious satisfaction. I choke and cough violently from the dust. See? I didn't say anything. I didn't even do anything. Yet everything is still my fault. I stand frozen in place for a long time until a maple leaf falls onto my shoulder. The biting cold seeps through my thin shirt. There was a time I had nowhere to go because of my parents' bias. It was Ji Yunshu who said that with her, the world would never lack love. Sadly, even the woman who promised to be by my side forever has had a change of heart. The sky is gloomy. I let out a bitter laugh. Biased parents, a faithless fiancé. I don't need any of it anymore. The moment I get home, I hear happy laughter from inside. I look up at the sky. The crimson sunset looks like a mocking face, ridiculing my solitary, lonely silhouette. Ever since my parents brought Song Jinian home, I have become completely redundant. Just because my youngest uncle saved me, I must always yield, from toys and clothes at the beginning, to my parents' love and affection. And finally, even my fiancé no longer wants me. I am like a lonely ghost wandering the earth, standing silently at the door. The laughter inside is like a sharp knife stabbing my heart. Fresh blood seems to soak the floor beneath my feet, forming a massive shadow that drowns me. I push the door open. The laughter in the house stops instantly. It seems my appearance has disturbed their family's harmony. Mother Yi shoots me a glance, pointing to the stool nearby. On it sits a bowl of rice, with only a few strands of green vegetables, while their table is filled with fish and beef. Since childhood, my parents said my cousin needed nutrition as he was growing, so they gave the best things to him, forcing me to be understanding, giving up my seat, giving up my food. The present me can only stay on a small, tattered bed on the balcony, eating scraps of picked-up vegetables. But my parents never considered that I am only 6 months older than Song Jinian. I also need nutrition. Mother Yi stands up, deliberately placing a piece of fish in my bowl. Then she smiles. This is your favorite dish. Quick, sit down and eat. I have no expression, actually. The one who likes fish is my cousin. This time, Mother Yi isn't as impatient as before, scolding me for being troublesome. She stares directly into my eyes, rarely showing a kind appearance. Have you made things clear with the school? Your grades are good. Just take the exam again next year. I remain silent. Mother Yi's face changes. Her tone becomes severe. How can you not agree? Facing my parents' furious glares, I feel as if my body is being carved by 1,000 blades. I can't stop trembling. Song Jinian looks aggrieved. Everyone, please don't pressure my brother anymore. It's painful for me to watch. Maybe I'm just not destined to go to school. I don't blame him. I can only blame myself for having no one who loves me. My parents quickly speak up to comfort him, promising they will definitely make me yield the spot at Peking University and that they will buy him many gifts. Only then does Song Jinian break into a smile. He looks at my pale face. Brother, I never thought of stealing anything from you. If you mind, I can leave. Father Ye is fuming with rage, glaring at me fiercely. Are you satisfied now? Turning this house upside down, apologize to your cousin immediately. I wipe the blood from the corner of my mouth. My gaze scans everyone present. These people, who are only related to me by name, are currently scheming to drive me to my death. Just as Father Yi is about to step forward and hit me, Ji Yunshu, standing nearby, speaks up. Tu Vian has already agreed to yield the Peking University spot. He went to school today to settle it. Only then do my parents' expressions soften, giving a cold humph. Mother Yi thinks for a moment, then stares at me. At least you know how to behave. Since your cousin is going to university, you should go get a part-time job, earn money for his tuition. Remember, you owe him this. I look at Mother Yi in a daze. This woman who gave birth to me, how can she say such cruel words? Mother Yi doesn't seem to care about her son's reaction. She orders with a tone that allows no room for doubt. Go work after summer vacation starts. You're just idling at home anyway. My father also nods in agreement. Then the whole family starts discussing how to throw a celebration party for Song Jinian. After all, getting into Peking University is a major event that honors the family. No one pays any attention to me standing right there. My existence is like a trash can in this house, mentioned briefly when needed and discarded without hesitation when not. I don't know when I ended up lying in bed. My heart has already gone numb from the pain. In this home devoid of warmth, the oppression makes it impossible for me to breathe. The bedsheet beneath me is over 10 years old. It barely covers half my body, damp and smelling of mold. Song Jinian, however, has a bright and spacious room filled with all sorts of toys and sweets, bought from department stores. I can only sleep on the cramped, leaky balcony, exposed to the wind and rain, freezing in the winter snow. This has lasted for 10 years. In the scorching summer, my heart remains utterly cold. I look up at the night sky, thinking that in 1 month I can finally leave this loveless place. If this home doesn't need me, then let me vanish forever. That night, I had a dream, dreaming of my childhood, my parents holding me in their arms, caring for me tenderly with eyes full of love. Ji Yunshu, who is 2 years older than me, pinching my cheek and saying, "How adorable." I felt as if I were submerged in a warm stream, never wanting to wake up. But when Song Jinian appears like a nightmare, my parents' faces turn fierce, screaming at me. Ji Yunshu also leaves me, moving further and further away. I cry out, "Mom! Dad! Sister, don't leave me!" I desperately chase after them, but beneath my feet is a bottomless abyss. I fall, surrounded by despair and agony, unable to struggle. And yet, my parents and Ji Yunshu never turn back. They walk away, surrounding Song Jinian. While I sink forever into the endless darkness, the sound of fireworks outside wakes me up. I open my eyes. I thought I wouldn't hurt for them anymore, but deep in my bones, I still crave care and recognition. Fortunately, it was only a dream A jeep drives into the courtyard. Seeing a tall man step out of the car, I hurry downstairs. Tu Vien, I heard you got into Peking University. Well done. The tall man is Ji Yunshu's father, an old family friend whose life was once saved by my father. That's why the childhood betrothal was made. Ji Jiangguo is likely the only one who is truly kind to me. Ji Jiangguo ruffles my hair, looking at his daughter. He nods. At least you have some sense, setting off fireworks to celebrate Tu Vien. Ji Yunshu frowns. Dad, these aren't for Tu Vien. Tu Vien said he didn't want to go, so he yielded his Peking University spot to Jinian. He will study hard from now on, and won't let everyone down. Ji Jiangguo's expression shifts slightly. Just as he is about to scold her, I stop him. I force a smile. Uncle, you've just returned home. Please rest first. I'll explain everything to you another day. I don't want Ji Jiangguo to keep questioning, otherwise I might reveal my registration for the decryption major at the National Defense University. I just want to leave quietly. I don't want to be entangled with them anymore. Ji Jiangguo's expression darkens slightly. He glares at his daughter and leaves in anger. Only Ji Yunshu and I are left at the scene. Ji Yunshu remains expressionless. Don't tell my father about the marriage registration yet. And as for yielding your spot at Peking University, you better have a reasonable explanation, understand? I lower my head and give a simple nod, offering no other reaction. Ji Yunshu, in order to help Song Jinian get into Peking University, is willing to register marriage with someone she doesn't love. How noble of her. Jinian is still young. He can handle emotional stress. You better not mention the marriage registration in front of him. Also, I told you to apologize yesterday. Why haven't you done anything yet? Without giving me a chance to speak, Ji Yunshu continues aggressively. Jinian is about to leave for Peking University. Give him some of your cloth and grain coupons. Consider it a sincere blessing. Seeing Ji Yunshu prioritize Song Jinian in every matter, I feel as if a heavy stone is pressing on my heart, making it impossible to breathe. Do you really think I still have those coupons? With your and my parents pampering, would he ever lack such things? Ji Yunshu is stunned. Only then does she remember my situation. A complex expression flashes on her face. Don't worry. Since I promised to marry you, I won't go back on my word. Ji Yunshu can only use marriage as a way to appease me, Sister Yunshu. Do you really want to marry my brother? Ji Yunshu's expression changes instantly. Suddenly looking toward the house door, Song Jinian is leaning against the doorframe. His face is deathly pale. His expression becomes one of extreme agony. It's not like that. Before Ji Yunshu can even explain, Song Jinian starts frantically banging his head against the wall. His face is full of suffering. I don't want you to marry my brother. I love you too. Song Jinian acts as if he's in unbearable pain. Ji Yunshu immediately panics. She shoves me aside and rushes to embrace Song Jinian. My parents also come running out. Seeing Song Jinian in that state, everyone's expression changes in alarm. The three of them quickly get Song Jinian into the car to head to the hospital. Before leaving, Ji Yunshu shoots me a cold glance. Her voice is like ice. See this? You deliberately provoked Jinian, didn't you? I didn't realize you were so insidious. Feeling Ji Yunshu's look of loathing, it feels like a heavy blow to my chest. Whatever Song Jinian wants, he just needs to act a little sad, and the whole family revolves around him, while every mistake is blamed on me. Ji Yunshu's angry face keeps flashing through my mind. I tell myself not to hurt anymore over a woman who doesn't love me, but my heart still aches terribly. Song Jinian's little tricks could be seen through with just a little attention. Once, it was Ji Yunshu who couldn't stand the bias toward Jinian. At my most desperate moment, she burst into the house to take me away and told the whole neighborhood that no one was allowed to bully me anymore. Ji Yunshu was truly kind to me back then. I don't know when it happened, but Ji Yunshu has changed, from despising Song Jinian to gradually pitying him. Song Jinian is like my nemesis, always able to steal everything that belongs to me. I watch coldly as the car drives away. This is the last time I will ever grieve for Ji Yunshu, and the last time I will hurt for this house without warmth. From now on, I will live for myself, dedicate my youth to building this nation. I go home and start cleaning the cramped balcony and a tattered box inside, stored all the gifts Ji Yunshu ever gave me. Large ones like puppet toys, small ones like an autumn leaf. I used to treasure every gift from Ji Yunshu, unable to throw them away. But now, they are just trash. I gather all the gifts together, place them in the courtyard, and burn them all. Along with my love for Ji Yunshu, they are buried together in the flames, just as the gifts are almost reduced to ash. Ji Yunshu returns to the courtyard, catching sight of this scene. She sees the burning puppet. Her expression changes instantly. A wave of intense panic rises in her heart. Ji Yunshu's voice carries a slight tremble. She looks at me in disbelief. Tu Vien? These are the gifts I gave you. Why are you burning them? It seems something has spiraled out of control, making her inexplicably frantic. I watch the burning puppet until it turns into a pile of charcoal. Slowly, I turn my head and look directly into her eyes with a perfectly calm gaze. In that moment, Ji Yunshu seems to feel that the person before her is about to leave her. I take a deep breath. At the moment the gifts turn to dust, a certain obsession in my heart was finally laid to rest. I no longer care who my parents favor. I no longer suffer over who Ji Yunshu cares about. None of it has anything to do with me anymore. I must walk my own path well. The gifts got moldy, so they had to be burned. I almost want to lay all my cards on the table with Ji Yunshu to tell her that I don't love her anymore, but I remember there are still 20 days before I can disappear, so I can only endure it in silence. Ji Yunshu nods, looking as if a weight has been lifted. Burning them is fine. They weren't worth much anyway. We can buy new ones after we register our marriage. I give a faint smile, thinking to myself, we won't be registering any marriage and there is no future for us. Ji Yunshu reflects on it, that besides her, I have no other choice and no way to ever leave. Her worry just now must have been misplaced. Ji Yunshu's expression returns to its usual arrogance. She knits her slender brows, looking displeased. Stop walking around with that face all day. Jinian lost his parents. He suffers from depression. He can't handle any more emotional triggers. You have everything. There's no need to fight him for things. I laugh, asking back with a hint of sarcasm. Then tell me, exactly what do I have? My parents' concern? My fiancé's devotion? I don't even have a single decent set of clothes. Song Jinian has stolen everything that belonged to me. What else am I supposed to yield? Again, Ji Yunshu can't stand it when I complain. She grows impatient. Don't you still have parents? And me? Jinian is suffering terribly in the hospital right now. Go and apologize to him. I thought I had misheard her. Song Jinian's depression was clearly a complete facade, but one by one, they all chose to turn a blind eye to it. My voice was cold and indifferent. He has my parents by his side to keep him company, and he has you to look after him as well. He's surrounded by a whole team of medical staff. Do you really think there's any need for me to be there? Ji Yunshu flared up in anger. How can you be so utterly heartless and lack any empathy? His depression over these years is a direct result of how you treated him. Regardless of everything, as his older cousin, you should show some magnanimity. Even now, you still refuse to acknowledge your own mistakes. It seems I've spoiled you far too much in the past. Yes, Yuan, don't say I never gave you a chance. If you don't show up at the hospital, then our marriage registration will be put on hold indefinitely. Having said her piece, she stormed off in a rage. She seemed to be using our marriage as a weapon to threaten me, expecting me to submit unconditionally if I showed up. But I didn't care anymore. Watching her car drive away, my expression remained perfectly calm. Returning home, I intended to pack my things and leave for good, but I soon realized that in this vast house there wasn't a single thing worth taking with me. When evening came, my parents returned home, greeting me with nothing but cold glares. They seemed to be blaming me for provoking Song Jinian. Mother Yi approached me, her expression stern and grave. Xu Yuan, you should let Yunshu go. Jinian loves her too. He's in the hospital right now, threatening to take his own life. You are his older cousin, so you ought to be more understanding and generous. Even though I knew Mother Yes' bias towards Song Jinian was twisted and extreme, I never imagined she could be this shameless. Mother Yes' words in the middle of this sweltering summer felt like a ruthless, icy gale slashing across my face. My face went numb. I stared directly into Mother Yes' eyes, my voice thick and raspy. Mother, I am your biological son. You always tell me to give in to Song Jinian, and I have always obeyed. Haven't. I sacrificed enough for him all these years. Every new thing in this house, the meat on the dinner table, new clothes for the new year, even my own bedroom. Was there anything that wasn't handed over to him? I've already given up my spot at Peking University. And now, you want me to give up Ji Yunshu as well. If he said he wanted my life, would I have to carve out my own heart for him? Mother, am I really even your child at all? I could no longer suppress the long-buried rage in my soul, unleashing the question that haunted my very core. Mother Yi struck me across the face with a sharp slap. Her face was contorted with deep disappointment. He is your younger cousin. He lost his father because of you. Isn't everything you have already enough? Your father was right. You truly are an ungrateful wretch. This time, you will yield whether you want to or not. Otherwise, I will no longer consider you my son. Mother Yi threw those cruel words at me and turned to leave. I leaned weakly against the doorframe. The sunset above felt like a heartless, mocking face, treating my entire existence as one giant joke. In their eyes, it turned out I was supposed to be happy. Before long, Ji Yunshu returned to the courtyard, getting straight to the point. Yes, Xu Yuan, Jinian's mental state is very fragile right now, so our marriage registration must be postponed. She wasn't negotiating with me, she was issuing an order. Fortunately, I had accumulated enough disappointment that I no longer felt any pain. I smirked, my face pale and weary, pronouncing each word with absolute seriousness. Fine. Ji Yunshu didn't expect that instead of throwing a tantrum, I would agree so decisively and coldly. For a moment, she was completely lost for words. She stood frozen in place for a long time. I didn't look at Ji Yunshu, my gaze falling on the sycamore tree in the courtyard. Ji Yunshu used to hope I'd get into Peking University to fulfill my dreams. So, when the college entrance exams were restored in '78, I worked tirelessly in secret. And finally, I secured a place at Peking University. I once thought I could follow in Ji Yunshu's footsteps forever, staying together for the rest of our lives. Looking back now, it was all just an illusion, a dream that could never come true. The Ji Yunshu before me had changed beyond recognition. constantly forcing me to compromise at every turn. Just so Song Jinian could go to Peking University, she'd marry a man she didn't even love. What a truly noble sacrifice she's making for him. When Ji Yunshu spoke of postponing the marriage, I felt a strange sense of inner peace. I no longer expected anything from her. Today she says postpone, tomorrow she will break her promise entirely. By then, I'll have lost my chance at education, and Ji Yunshu won't marry me anyway. That much is certain. It's a good thing I haven't officially yielded my spot yet. In just over 20 days, I will leave this place of heartbreak behind, head to the National Defense University, and sever all ties with them forever. Xu Yuan, don't overthink this. I made you a promise, and I definitely won't go back on it. It's just that Jinian's mental state is so unstable, I simply don't want to provoke him right now. Ji Yunshu saw that I wasn't making a scene, and my eerie calm seemed to unsettle her. She couldn't stop herself from trying to explain. I pulled my gaze away from the sycamore tree and suddenly asked her a question. Ji, do you remember when we were 11, under that sycamore tree, you promised? Ji Yunshu's expression shifted slightly, as if a memory had suddenly resurfaced, and a flicker of guilt crossed her eyes. But just as she was about to speak, a guard stepped forward, looking extremely anxious. Regimental Commander Ji, word came from the hospital. That person is trying to harm himself again. Ji Yunshu furrowed her brow. Ignoring me completely, she turned and rushed toward her car. Watching the jeep speed away, I turned and went back to my room. On that cramped little balcony, there was actually nothing left of me. Having burned all the gifts Ji Yunshu gave me, aside from a few tattered, thin clothes, it seemed that apart from the life I was born with, my parents had never truly given me anything at all. They once gave a lot, but every single bit of it had been surrendered to Song Jinian. Ji Yunshu was gone for an entire week. During this time, she and my parents stayed at the hospital caring for Song Jinian. I enjoyed the rare peace of being alone, no longer forced to see Song Jinian's detestable face, nor endure the presence of my biased parents. I sought out Jijiangguo, hoping to start physical training to prepare myself for the National Defense University. Since I had chosen decryption as my major, I knew my future would be fraught with danger. Jijiangguo didn't question my motives, seeing only a young man with a drive to improve, and he taught me everything he knew without hesitation. Another week slipped by. One day, as I was training in the courtyard, drenched in sweat, my spirits felt invigorated and bright. I had cut my hair into a buzz cut. Ji Yunshu once said she liked men with an artistic temperament, so I had always kept a softer, more romantic hairstyle. But now, I live only for myself. With my new hair, I looked like an entirely different person. Ji Jiangguo was deeply impressed when he saw the change. Now this is the true spirit of a soldier, he remarked. Though Ji Jiangguo didn't know the full reason for my training, he seemed to sense something was brewing, but he kept his thoughts to himself. Young people's problems should be settled among themselves. He only felt his old neighbor's favoritism was becoming excessive. Since he was frequently away on missions, it was hard for him to intervene. But if I ever needed help, he wouldn't mind providing me with a bit of assistance. My peaceful existence was finally shattered by Song Jinian's return. I was practicing my horse stance in the courtyard when I looked up to see my parents and Ji Yunshu laughing and chatting as they escorted Song Jinian inside. Song Jinian leaned his entire weight against Ji Yunshu, acting with sickeningly forced intimacy. My parents stood by, pretending not to notice anything wrong, seeming quite pleased. And seeing this, Ji Yunshu didn't object either. Only when she felt my gaze fixed upon them did she seem to remember something, hurriedly pushing him away. Song Jinian immediately pouted and said, "Ji, do you hate me now?" Ji Yunshu looked awkward and conflicted, leaving her with no choice but to let Song Jinian lean on her again. As Song Jinian entered the house, he cast a fleeting glance in my direction, his eyes brimming with provocation and mockery. My face remained a mask of calm, as if those four people had absolutely nothing to do with me. I went back to focusing on my training. An hour slipped by without me even realizing it. Finishing my exercises, I exhaled a long, heavy breath. A rare cool breeze drifted through the summer heat. I closed my eyes, savoring this fleeting moment of comfort in the courtyard. National Defense University. Suddenly, a trembling voice came from behind me. Opening my eyes, I saw Ji Yunshu holding a magazine, a flicker of panic visible in her eyes. Ji Yunshu had gone to the room with Song Jinian and accidentally spotted a National Defense University magazine lying on the small bed on my balcony, igniting a deep sense of unease within her. She had hurried downstairs to confront me. "Why are you looking at materials for the National Defense University?" Facing Ji Yunshu's question, I remained perfectly composed, offering no immediate explanation. Instead, I reached for a towel. "Answer me." Ji Yunshu grabbed my arm, her body shaking slightly. It was as if she felt something vital was slipping away. I gently pried away that small hand that I had longed to hold 1,000 times before. My heart felt nothing but still waters now as I smiled. "I'm just reading it casually." Ji Yunshu stared intensely into my eyes, finding no trace of a lie there, and believing I could never deceive her. She let out a sigh of relief. She nodded her head. She gave a small sound of agreement. "There's really nothing there worth looking at." With your physical condition, you're not suited for the National Defense University. You should focus on your studies instead and retake the entrance exam next year. Since your grades are excellent, you'll definitely have another chance." I didn't react at all. "Do you honestly think I'll have another chance? My parents expect me to start working and earning money after summer just to support my cousin's education. He'll have to leave in just a little while." Ji Yunshu's face paled. She opened her mouth to speak but stopped herself. Sensing she had wronged me lately, her tone softened considerably. "Don't worry. I won't let you go off to do menial labor. You don't need to worry about money. I've already set aside some funds, enough to cover Jinian's tuition." I let out a self-deprecating laugh. "See, Ji Yunshu is truly wonderful to Song Jinian. She takes care of everything so perfectly for him. Not only does she force me to give up Peking University, but she even pays his tuition. I have to say, that family is truly happy together." I naturally noticed the panic in Ji Yunshu's heart, but I didn't mistake it for love. It was nothing more than a flicker of guilt. I knew that as soon as Song Jinian threw another fit, my biased parents would force me out to work, and Ji Yunshu would remain silent. Fortunately, I stopped caring a long time ago. Seeing my silence, Ji Yunshu assumed I was feeling jealous. She reached out to pat my head, only to realize I had cut my hair into a buzz cut, looking nothing like the artistic version of myself she knew. For some reason, even though the man standing here was clearly still me, he felt as if he were about to vanish into thin air. She was overcome by a feeling of losing control. "Xu Yuan, I will marry you, trust me. I just need some time. It's only a postponement." Ji Yunshu's voice was firm, leaving no room for doubt. If this had been the old me, I would have been deeply moved, but now I only uttered a soft, indifferent, "Oh," my calm and detached expression, unsettling Ji Yunshu even more. On the second-floor balcony, Song Jinian happened to be watching the two of us below, his eyes burning with a deep, dark hatred. I went to bed very early that evening. I didn't want to watch my biased parents, doting on and caring for Song Jinian, and besides, I was exhausted from the day's training. Early the next morning, I left for school. Inside the faculty office, I met a handsome man dressed in a sharp military uniform. He exuded an aura of unwavering resolve that instantly inspired respect and admiration. He introduced himself as an instructor from the National Defense University's decryption major. Apart from his current assignment, his mission was to escort me to the academy. The decryption major at NDU is highly specialized, part of the early admission program. As such, it didn't follow the usual procedures, nor were there any formal acceptance letters. Instead, instructors from NDU would personally transport students to a secret location for their training. After completing the handover process, the NDU instructor informed me that he would return in 1 week to pick me up. On the walk back home, the image of the instructor in his uniform lingered in my mind, and my heart filled with a new sense of aspiration. If I study hard and serve my country faithfully, perhaps I could become someone like him one day. Though my home was cold and devoid of any shred of love, a spark of hope had been rekindled within me, making me long for the day I'd leave for Endu. By the time I reached the courtyard, dusk had already begun to settle. My parents were nowhere to be found. I went back up to my room, only to find Song Jinian perched on my small bed, watching me with an air of smug superiority. "Cousin, it seems she likes me a lot more than you." Song Jinian sneered with a half smile, taunting me. "See that? As long as I want it, everything that's yours becomes mine. Then why are you still hanging around this house? Why don't you just go and die already?" Having found a new source of hope, I was completely unfazed by Song Jinian's provocations. Song Jinian had expected to get a rise out of me, to drive me to the brink of insanity, just as he had so many times before, waiting to laugh at the sight of me kneeling in agony, wanting to revel in his arrogant victory. But seeing my perfectly composed expression now, he felt as though he were punching a bag of cotton, and his face twisted in frustration. Song Jinian loathed this feeling. Recalling Ji Yunshu's promise to me earlier that day, he was driven half-mad with jealousy. Even when he had harmed himself, Ji Yunshu only postponed the marriage. She still didn't truly belong to him. That was why he couldn't stop himself from taunting me. But my indifferent attitude only stoked the fires of his envy. A flicker of pure madness danced in Song Jinian's eyes. He grabbed me roughly, his voice dropping to an icy whisper. "Tell me, if you pushed me off the balcony in a jealous rage, who do you think they would believe?" My face went pale as a sheet, and just as I tried to pull away, Song Jinian shoved me with all his might. Help! It looked like a devastating fall, but for him, it was merely a superficial scrape. His blood-curdling scream pierced the hearts of my parents and Ji Yunshu. But from an angle where the three of them couldn't see, he flashed a cold, malicious grin directly at me. I had fallen from the second floor, my injuries far more severe than his. In that moment, I was completely speechless, only to be met with several more brutal kicks. My body curled up in pain like a wounded shrimp. Yet the physical agony was nothing compared to the deep wounds in my heart. My parents had never once believed in me. Any explanation I offered would be utterly pointless. They placed their unconditional trust in Song Jinian alone. It wasn't until several minutes later that I finally managed to drag myself up. My face was ghastly pale, and my entire body shook uncontrollably. I couldn't help but look at Ji Yunshu with eyes full of utter despair. Song Jinian sobbed with forced, pitiful cries. "Cousin, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have clung to her, asking her to stay by my side. I know you hate me. If my death would make you happy, then I'll give my life to you. Just don't make Aunt, Uncle, and Ji suffer anymore." I watched Song Jinian with a cold, hollow gaze, witnessing his pathetic little performance and then seeing the burning fury in my parents' eyes. It felt as if a curtain of darkness and despair had fallen before me. I had grown accustomed to the loneliness and the sorrow. I had already decided to let go of my parents and Ji Yunshu. I no longer needed these garbage-like relatives in my life. But why did Song Jinian have to frame me time and time again? Ji Yunshu struck me across the face with a hard slap, her beautiful features frozen into an expression of icy disdain. "I told you we would get married, so why did you have to harm Jinian? He's already in such a dark place. Are you really determined to drive him to his death?" A bright red handprint bloomed on my cheek. A trickle of blood escaped the corner of my mouth. I stared blankly at Ji Yunshu. She was exactly like my parents, offering her unconditional trust to Song Jinian. In their eyes, I was nothing but a heinous criminal. I had intended to offer Ji Yunshu some kind of explanation, hoping that she might at least harbor a shred of doubt. But now, I see that would be completely pointless. Ji Yunshu shook her head slowly, her expression one of profound disappointment. "A person as unscrupulous and manipulative as you? How could I ever feel safe marrying someone like that? Yes, Shu Yuan, you truly are a massive disappointment." The three of them didn't give me so much as a second glance, as they rushed Song Jinian off to the hospital. Song Jinian turned back and flashed a grin at me, a smile like a demon crawling out from the depths of hell. It wasn't until the car had vanished from sight that my strength finally failed me. I coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed onto the ground. In the dead silence of the night, my eyes were as cold as ice. When I finally woke up, my entire body felt numb. I struggled to drag myself back inside the house, lying on the bed for a few hours until I regained a tiny shred of energy. I applied some medicine to my wounds myself. The night was as frigid as water, yet the blood I shed was nothing compared to my frozen heart. The actions of my parents and Ji Yunshu were like a dull blade, slowly carving a massive hole into my heart. My already fragile mental world had completely crumbled once again. I was like a wounded stray, licking my wounds on that dark, lonely balcony. My tears had all run dry, and my emotions had long since gone numb. I was nothing more than a hollow, soulless shell. Now, my only wish was for time to speed by as fast as possible, unwilling to spend another single moment in that house. This cold-blooded, heartless home was like a gaping, bloody maw, ready to swallow me whole at any second. Lying on my bed, staring up at the night sky, I felt a crushing wave of longing for my late grandmother. In this entire world, aside from my grandmother, there was no one left who truly, honestly loved me. Drifting in and out of consciousness, I eventually fell into a fitful sleep. It was clearly Song Jinian who framed me, yet I was the one forced to kneel and apologize. In the past, to salvage what was left of our bond, desperate for even a shred of recognition, I would have surely compromised. But now, I felt nothing but pure loathing for my own existence. Why was I born into such a heartless family? Seeing my stubborn refusal to submit, Father's expression darkened into a mask of fury, and he delivered a brutal kick. He roared at me. "Do you honestly think you're innocent in this?" I stumbled and crashed onto the floor, coughing up even more blood. Ji Yunshu's expression flickered for a moment, looking as though she wanted to help me up. But then, thinking back on what she believed I'd done, she decided that a little punishment might be exactly what I needed to change. She reached out and stopped Father, giving him a slight, subtle shake of her head. Only then did Father finally back off. My gaze shifted ever so slightly, thinking for a brief second that Ji Yunshu might actually help me, but the words that followed made me want to burst out in a bitter laugh. Ji Yunshu narrowed her eyes, her expression completely detached. "I believe the way you are acting right now makes you utterly unfit to marry me. If Jinian hadn't been incredibly lucky, he could have easily died from that fall. As a punishment, our marriage registration will be postponed indefinitely. And to make it up to Jinian, I've decided to hold a wedding ceremony with him first." I stared at Ji Yunshu in utter, speechless disbelief. What kind of insane punishment was this supposed to be? Ji Yunshu felt the weight of my sarcastic gaze, and sensing her own logic was failing her, she flared up in a sudden burst of rage. "It's not like it's even going to be a real marriage anyway. I just want to make it up to Jinian." My parents and Ji Yunshu stared at me. They instinctively stood in front of Song Jinian to stop me from going crazy and hurting someone. Unfortunately for them, they were disappointed. Not only was I not angry or trying to stop them, but I even flashed a radiant smile. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, I bared my teeth and said, "Then let me congratulate you both in advance. To my cousin and my future sister-in-law. Are you done talking? If that's all, I'm going to rest now." I took heavy, difficult steps, almost dragging myself to the balcony, not wanting to look at them ever again. Song Jinian feigned being hurt. Cousin, when she and I get married, will you come to the wedding? Even if it's just for show, I would be so content. I hope to have your blessing. My father snorted. Don't worry. Even if he doesn't want to come, I'll tie him up and drag him there. Does he think he doesn't have to pay for his mistakes? My mother screamed at her son's back. If you don't show up, then get out of this house. Ji Yunshu didn't understand why, but seeing me not acting jealous as usual, a wave of intense unease rose within her. She wouldn't actually marry Song Jinian, it was just a formality. In her mind, I had lost myself to jealousy and couldn't be allowed to keep making mistakes. If I could learn a lesson this time, maybe I could still be saved. Once the wedding was over, she planned to have a proper talk with me, but that word sister-in-law, along with the serene smile on my face, was like a thorn piercing her heart. Why did she feel this way? After that, the three of them ignored me completely. They didn't care if I died from the fall, nor did they care if I ran away. To them, I cared deeply about this family and loved Ji Yunshu with all my heart. In this vast world, I had nowhere else to go. Over the next 3 days, as expected, I didn't cause any trouble, but stayed home to recover from my injuries. My parents and Ji Yunshu happily prepared for the wedding. The wedding was to be held at the state-owned restaurant. For people back then, this was an incredibly extravagant move. But to make Song Jinian happy, my parents emptied their pockets and poured in all their effort. It was time for the ceremony. I had already packed my things, waiting for the teacher from the National Defense University to pick me up. My parents and Song Jinian had gone to the state restaurant to greet guests. Since Ji Yunshu was a soldier, she didn't wear a wedding dress. She walked up to me. Tuvien, he'll go with you in a bit. Jinian and I are just doing this for show. It's not a legal marriage registration. Rest assured, I will still marry you. Ji Yunshu promised firmly, just like when I was 11, and my parents kicked me out of the house, and I sat under the sycamore tree in the yard. She was the one who brought me new hope, and she was the one who promised never to leave me. But how much time had passed, and Ji Yunshu had completely changed. My expression remained calm as I gave a cold, indifferent nod. Ji Yunshu let out a sigh of relief. She had really been afraid I would cause a scene at the wedding today. But seeing the way I was acting, she assumed I'd learned my lesson and would be more obedient from now on. Ji Yunshu insisted on taking me to the restaurant, but seeing no sign of longing on my face made her feel panicked. I responded calmly to every word she said, as if the woman before me wasn't my beloved fiancée, but a stranger. Just as Ji Yunshu was about to force me into the car, a guard came to report that the restaurant couldn't wait any longer. Ji Yunshu finally let go, telling me I must be there, or else she wouldn't marry me in the future. Watching her hurried departure, I remained expressionless. I picked up my woven bag and walked out of the yard. Just as Ji Yunshu's car left, the car from the National Defense University arrived. The teacher asked if I wanted to say goodbye to my family. I turned back to look at the courtyard, the place that held 15 years of my suffering, and I didn't want to stay for another second. My biased parents, my betraying fiancé, I never wanted to see them again. No need, sir. I quickly got into the car. Entering the decryption major at National Defense University, my real identity would be erased, and I would remain anonymous for life. For the rest of my life, I didn't want to be my parents' son, nor did I want to be Ji Yunshu's husband. I wanted to be myself and dedicate my life to my country. The university's car drove past the state restaurant. I looked through the window and saw them standing at the main gate greeting guests. My parents and Song Jinian wore happy smiles, while Ji Yunshu looked shy, with an air of anticipation. The four of them looked like a perfect match. The car slowly drove away, and the four people at the restaurant gradually vanished from sight. I will live my own life. In front of the state restaurant, Ji Yunshu seemed to sense something and suddenly looked up. The jeep carrying me was already gone. For some reason, a flash of panic rose in her heart. Yi parents were beaming with joy, telling everyone it was a double celebration. Not only did Song Jinian get into Peking University, but he was also marrying the most beautiful woman in the district. Ji Yunshu felt a bit uncomfortable. Whether it was the university spot or the marriage, these things should have belonged to Tuvien. She only reluctantly agreed to cooperate for Song Jinian's treatment, but listening to them, it was as if it were only natural. Song Jinian clung to Ji Yunshu, his eyes searching the crowd. With a pitiful look, why don't I see my cousin? Didn't he agree to come and give his blessing? Or is he angry? He doesn't want me to be happy. If I'd known, I would have knelt and apologized to him. Song Jinian started playing the victim again. Father Yi's face darkened, and he snorted. Ungrateful brat. I regret ever having that son. He's not even 1/10,000th as good as Jinian. Mother Yi nodded in agreement. Tuvien is so inconsiderate, not even showing up for his cousin's wedding. Never mind how he bullied Jinian before, only because Jinian was generous enough not to mind. He almost killed him a few days ago. Now who is he putting on that long face for? We must teach him a lesson when we get back. Your parents were in full agreement. On Jinian's happy day, I should have been more magnanimous. Song Jinian added fuel to the fire, lowering his head, Maybe he likes you. I didn't really mean to steal you away. I just wanted to fulfill my wish to get married. I'll give you back to him after the wedding. If my cousin is angry, then let's not go through with it. This playing hard to get tactic never got old, and it once again ignited Yi parents' rage. Thinking of my desperate, pained expression and hearing Yi parents' curses, Song Jinian felt incredibly satisfied. Ji Yunshu kept staring outside, and when I didn't appear, she began to feel restless. The reason she agreed to the wedding wasn't because she truly wanted to marry Song Jinian, but to fulfill his dying wish. Ji Yunshu felt I shouldn't be so petty and that I should surely understand. After all, it was a matter of life and death. But my indifferent face involuntarily flashed through her mind. Seeing the wedding was about to start and I still hadn't arrived, Ji Yunshu couldn't wait any longer and walked out. Song Jinian rushed to stop her. "Sister, are you going to leave me?" Ji Yunshu suddenly turned around, her cold gaze falling on Song Jinian's face. In that moment, Song Jinian flinched, forgetting to even pretend to be in pain. He had rarely seen Ji Yunshu with such a terrifying expression. Ji Yunshu's mind was in turmoil. She felt as if something terrible was about to happen. A voice screamed in her heart, "I have to go home. I'm going to get someone." This time, Ji Yunshu ignored Song Jinian and strode away. On the way back, she felt she'd been negligent, that she should have explained everything clearly to me, that it wasn't a real marriage, just a performance. She returned to the courtyard at top speed, rushing through the door and straight to the balcony. "Tu Vian, stop sulking. Everyone is waiting for you." Ji Yunshu pulled back the curtain. The small, narrow, and damp balcony had now been cleaned thoroughly. The small folding bed was tossed in a corner, and the only low desk used for studying was placed in the center. On top of it, a piece of paper was left. "I don't need this home anymore. Ji Yunshu, we will never meet again." Those two short lines were like a sledgehammer, striking her heart with full force. Ji Yunshu suppressed the panic in her heart, muttering to herself, "Tu Vian must be joking." In her mind, I had nowhere else to go, let alone being able to bear leaving her and my parents. Ji Yunshu believed she understood my character well. Having endured years of humiliation, it was all to stay by my parents' side, longing for their love. But everything before her now made her extremely uneasy. Ji Yunshu refused to accept it and searched the yard. As time passed, she discovered with horror that all traces of me had vanished. At 15, the begonia tree I planted for her in the yard was gone. At 17, when I prayed for her, the red silk ribbon hanging on the yard swing was gone. Ji Yunshu rushed to the sycamore tree outside the courtyard. She remembered I loved being under that tree most, burying my deepest secrets in the ground. The longing for my parents' care and recognition, along with my secret love for Ji Yunshu, were all in a small jar buried beneath the sycamore tree. But when she saw the scene before her, Ji Yunshu felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. The earth had been dug up, the jar smashed, and the secrets within had been turned to a pile of ash. At that moment, Ji Yunshu finally realized a grave truth. I had truly gone. Ji Yunshu squatted under the sycamore tree, staring blankly at the pile of ashes. My departure had actually been foreshadowed, but unfortunately, no one noticed. A child who isn't loved by anyone would leave in such a decisive manner, burning the gifts she gave, destroying beautiful memories, without taking even a single sycamore leaf. Ji Yunshu only intended a fake marriage with Song Jinian, just to fulfill his wish. She never said she would abandon me. Why did I have to leave? Even now, Ji Yunshu couldn't understand, and she never would. She only felt the stifling summer air pressing down on her chest until it hurt. A hot breeze blew by, and sycamore leaves fell one by one. Ji Yunshu looked up in a daze and seemed to see that child from years ago, abandoned by his family, sitting under the tree, sobbing uncontrollably. She had reached out her hand and smiled, saying, "You won't be lonely anymore?" That night, under the cool moonlight, my eyes had lit up. But at some point, I became numb, like a soulless shell, returning to my original state. Perhaps it was when she suggested using the marriage registration to trade for the spot at Peking University. She still remembered my shocked expression back then. Ji Yunshu had always known that I secretly loved her, but she didn't respond for fear of gossip. Not until Yi parents came to her, saying they hoped she would persuade me to give up the Peking University spot to Song Jinian. Ji Yunshu knew it was wrong, knowing full well how much Peking University meant to me, but at the time, to find a suitable reason for marriage, Ji Yunshu had, as if possessed, proposed the trade. To her surprise, I had agreed without hesitation. Ji Yunshu thought that since my grades were so good, I would surely get a good result if I retook the exam next year. Then she could silence everyone, and they could be together normally. Unfortunately, it seemed I had misunderstood something and chose to let go of everything and leave decisively. He can't have gone far. Ji Yunshu remembered something and stood up abruptly. She thought I had nowhere to go, so she mobilized all her connections, determined to find me at every bus station and train station. Sadly, half a day passed, and though Ji Yunshu had mobilized the entire district's forces, there was still no news of me. It was as if I had vanished into thin air. The matter reached the ears of Ji Jiangguo. For a daughter to abuse her power was a very serious matter back then. He rushed home, and when he saw her despondent figure sitting by the door, his angry words caught in his throat and turned into a sigh. Ji Jiangguo probably guessed what his daughter was thinking, first canceling the search for me to prevent her from making a major blunder. Then he shared his guess. Tu Vian has gone to university. Ji Yunshu suddenly looked up, her face filled with disbelief. Isn't the Peking University acceptance letter coming in 2 weeks? Ji Jiangguo gave a cold laugh. Who told you Tu Vian was going to Peking University? He got into the National Defense University. Ji Yunshu felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. Ji Jiangguo couldn't bear to see his daughter in such a state. Remembering the treatment I'd suffered over the years, he felt both angry and regretful. I don't know why you're sad. You didn't appreciate him while he was here. Now that he's gone, who are you being sad for? Don't you realize Tu Vian was driven away by you people? Ji Jiangguo's words left Ji Yunshu numb. She opened her mouth to argue, but couldn't utter a word. Countless images flooded back into her mind. Over the years, you parents had been abnormally biased towards Song Jinian. I had been tormented until life felt worse than death. She clearly knew and had once been my guiding light. But what had she done? Instead of standing firmly by my side as before, she had aided the enemy. She suddenly remembered 3 days ago when Song Jinian said I'd pushed him down the stairs. My eyes looking at her then were as they always were, full of hope, wishing for a shred of kindness. Ji Yunshu hadn't just believed Song Jinian without hesitation, but had also slapped me hard across the face. That slap had shattered my every hope. Ji Jiangguo knew his daughter wouldn't listen to anything now, and he didn't care to talk further. Given the behavior of you parents and his daughter, I should have left even sooner. Tu Vian is a good kid. Only by leaving his family can he find happiness. It was a pity he had offered to help early on, but that boy's stubborn nature led him to keep harboring hope for you parents, only to face so much misfortune later. If I were him, I would have been gone long ago. Ji Jiangguo dropped one last angry remark and strode away. As a commander, he had no time to manage his children's love affairs. Ji Yunshu stood in the living room, recalling my reactions over the past few days. Perhaps from the moment of that trade, my heart had died. Thinking back to that night, when I asked her in a very serious tone, "Do you still remember the promise we made at the beginning?" Ji Yunshu collapsed to the floor, clutching her head in agony. Her heart was filled with endless regret. The night was cold as water, and the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from outside. Mother Yi burst into the house, her face etched with worry. "Yunshu, Jinian thinks you don't want him anymore, so he's going crazy at the restaurant." Ji Yunshu listened to Mother Yi's incessant rambling, her mouth full of nothing but concern for Jinian, and felt immensely troubled. She suddenly raised her head. "What's the point of him going crazy looking for me? In your eyes, there's only Song Jinian. Do you even know where your own son has gone?" Mother Yi froze, a hint of shame on her face. "What are you talking about? How could you say I don't care about Tu Vian? He's my biological son." Ji Yunshu stared intently at Mother Yi, searching for a trace of real concern in her eyes. But sadly, there was none. From beginning to end, Mother Yi had always been impatient with me. Ji Yunshu was profoundly disappointed. Looking out the window, her voice turned cold. "Tu Vian has gone to school. He's never coming home again." Mother Yi's face shifted, and she grabbed Ji Yunshu's hand, her eyes flashing with anger. "What school did he go to? Didn't he agree to give the Peking University spot to Jinian?" "Wait, no. The Peking University letter won't be here for 2 weeks. That kid has never studied well since he was little. He only knows how to lie. When he gets home, it will give him a good talking to." Ji Yunshu's heart shook, feeling a deep sorrow for me. He's already gone, yet his own mother is still resentful. She suddenly lost all patience and threw off Mother Yi's hand, saying in a frigid tone, "Tu Vian is at the National Defense University. It's Peking University." Mother Yi's face was ugly as she cursed foully. "What right does he have to go to the National Defense University? And what about Jinian? We've already announced it. The celebration party is being planned. What is Tu Vian planning? Can he stand to see Jinian doing well? No, you must call him back. No matter what, he must give up that Peking University spot." Mother Yi grabbed Ji Yunshu's arm and roughly pulled her out, as if I had done something unforgivably rebellious. Ji Yunshu intended to break free, but one sentence from Mother Yi silenced her. Jinian slit his wrists. There was so much blood. Ji Yunshu looked hesitant, but had to follow Mother Yi to the hospital. After all, it was her departure that caused Song Jinian's mental breakdown. She felt partially responsible. On the way there, Ji Yunshu had made up her mind. Once Song Jinian stabilized, she would explain everything. She wouldn't involve herself in his affairs anymore. Ji Yunshu now only wanted to find me as quickly as possible and tell me the truth. The two arrived at the hospital room door, and just as they were about to enter, they heard Song Jinian singing. He didn't sound depressed at all. In fact, he seemed to be in high spirits. For some reason, Ji Yunshu felt that Song Jinian's behavior was off. She recalled what I'd said before, that her cousin's depression was fake. That he wasn't sick at all, just trying to steal my things. Previously, Ji Yunshu thought I was lying because I was jealous of Song Jinian. Now that I had left in despair, She couldn't help but feel suspicious. Ji Yunshu stopped Mother Yi, giving a small shake of her head, signaling not to go in just yet. She wanted to hear what Song Jinian was saying. Father Yi had gone to get water, leaving Song Jinian alone in the room. Song Jinian didn't look sick at all, sitting on the bed with his legs crossed, laughing with extreme arrogance. That bastard must be dying of rage right now. I stole his parents away from him. He gave up his spot at Peking University for me, and now even his fiancée belongs to me, even if it is just a fake marriage, but with just a little bit of acting out on my part. Those two big fools will definitely back me up. They will force her to consummate the marriage once I have had my way with her. Would she even dare to call off the engagement? I really am a genius. Song Jinian spoke in a very low voice, but the hospital room was so quiet that the two people outside heard him clearly. Mi Yi's expression turned blank. Her face was a mask of sheer disbelief. She thought her ears were playing tricks on her. Ji Yunshu clenched her fists tight. A towering rage surged within her deep, dark eyes. What on earth did she just hear? Song Jinian had been faking his illness all along. Moreover, he admitted to wanting to steal everything from me. First, it was the parents. Then, it was the spot at Peking University. And finally, it was her. Ji Yunshu felt a chill run deep into her soul. She never could have imagined, even in her wildest dreams, that someone could be so utterly wicked, calling me a bastard, calling the IE parents complete fools. Was this really the same honest and obedient Song Jinian they knew? Ji Yunshu turned to look at me. Yeah. An infinite wave of sorrow washed over her heart, just for a beast like this. Isn't it pathetic that she personally drove her own son away? Thinking back on everything I have endured during this time, Ji Yunshu wanted to slap herself twice. They were wrong, utterly and absurdly wrong. They had been played like fiddles, especially Song Jinian's last line about making it a done deal. Ji Yunshu could not help but feel a shiver down her spine. She could not suppress her anger any longer. She kicked the door open with a loud bang. The smug look on Song Jinian's face had not even faded yet. His body suddenly went stiff, his eyes filled with absolute terror. Auntie, sister, how long have you two been here? Before Ji Yunshu could even speak. Me. Yi stepped forward and grabbed him by the collar. Her voice was trembling with fury. Why did you deceive me? Song Jinian's face was pale with dread. He dropped to his knees on the floor, but his eyes were darting around. Trying to find a way out of this situation, Mi Yi's face was ghostly white. She could not believe those were the words of a human being. She had doted on Song Jinian as if he were her own son. She would have plucked the stars from the sky for him, and because of that, she had neglected me. But what did Song Jinian do in return? He called his cousin a bastard. He called them fools. Me? You raised her hand to strike him. Song Jinian let out a wail and began to sob on the ground. Auntie, I was wrong. Those are not my real thoughts. I was having mental hallucinations. I dreamed that my cousin was framing me, that everyone was going to abandon me, even sister was going to leave me. That is why I was talking such nonsense. It hurts so much. Song Jinian stopped mid-sentence. He began desperately slamming his head against the floor. Me? He looked at the fresh blood on the floor. Her expression wavered slightly. She could not help but feel a pang of heartache. She instinctively reached out to help him up. Song Jinian noticed the shift in her attitude. Inside, he was ecstatic. Whatever you have done to Yizuyuan over the years, I will personally look into it. Ji Yunshu's face was ice cold. My departure had finally snapped her back to reality, being the youngest regimental commander in the region. She naturally possessed formidable capabilities. Song Jinian's expression changed drastically. He tried to continue his explanation. Ji Yunshu turned and walked out of the hospital room. A fire of rage was burning within her. If Song Jinian was a hypocrite, then everything that happened in the past would be turned upside down. She did not dare to imagine that everything had been a performance staged by Song Jinian. How much humiliation I must have endured. The mere thought of it was horrifying. Using Ji Jiangguo's connections, she quickly uncovered Song Jinian's true background. What she found was shocking. Ji Yunshu looked at the stains on his record in the documents. She almost went insane with rage, since Ji Yunshu was no longer protecting Song Jinian. Many people were finally willing to tell the truth. She even found something in Song Jinian's room, a notebook hidden in a secret compartment, staying at the Ai household. The first thing I must do is crush Yizuyuan. As long as he is here, I will never have everything. Luckily, Auntie dotes on me every time I frame him. It works. I really am too clever for my own good. Ji Yunshu quickly flipped through the pages until she reached the entries from just a few days ago. Her beautiful face was contorted with fury to push Yizuyuan to the brink. I intentionally pushed him down the stairs. I didn't expect the kid to be so lucky. He didn't even end up crippled, but that is fine because of this. I can marry Ji Yunshu. Ji Yunshu's hands gripped the notebook until her knuckles turned purple. A blazing fire of rage erupted in her heart. She wished she could tear Song Jinian into 100 pieces. It turns out everything I said was true. It turns out I had suffered so much injustice thinking back to when I was 11. Ji Yunshu used to dislike the Yi family. Her parents were so biased that she brought me to her home. She promised to treat me well for the rest of her life, but at some point, she lost her way as well. She forgot her original intentions. So many days and nights of being falsely accused, I lay on that small, dilapidated bed, licking my wounds all by myself when I was pushed down the stairs a few days ago. Ji Yunshu had a chance to help me prove the truth. Sadly, she slapped me without even asking what happened. I left in utter despair. Her world plummeted into darkness. Ji Yunshu showed the notebook to the e-parents. At first, they didn't believe it, but then they recognized Song Jinian's handwriting. Their entire worldview shattered. Song Jinian saw the ironclad evidence. He did not dare lie any longer. He knelt before the I-parents, repeatedly admitting his faults. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have lied to you both. I was just so insecure, I was afraid you would abandon me. That is why I framed my cousin. Please, give me one more chance. I promise to be filial to you from now on." Blood was streaming down his forehead, but the e-parents just watched him coldly. The contents of the notebook were horrifying. It revealed an incredibly cruel truth. They did not hesitate to discard their own son. Just to dote on a nephew who was this sinister, the Aya parents looked at one another. Endless regret surged within their hearts. Is it too late now? Song Jinian saw that no matter how much he hurt himself, he could not garner any pity from the three of them. Finally, he stopped the act. His expression turned feral. Was I wrong to do that? Every man for himself. Or the heavens will strike you down. I just wanted a good life for myself. However much the e-parents loved Song Jinian before, they hated him just as much now. Ji Yunshu's face was full of mockery. What is the point of waking up to the truth now? Song Jinian was beaten until he was at death's door. He no longer had the strength to even cry. He lay on the ground like a dead dog. The e-parents snapped out of it. They looked toward Ji Yunshu. Their faces were filled with shame. Can you find Yaziwan? We have wronged him so much all these years. We want to try and make it up to him. Ji Yunshu did not answer. Instead, she looked out at the night sky. Her voice was filled with a sense of lost hope and pain. Even if we find him, then what? We lost him a long time ago. The parents trembled uncontrollably. They bowed their heads, eyes brimming with tears. Xiangnan Branch, National Defense University. This place is a classified, restricted area, besides the Xiangnan garrison protecting the motherland. It is also a base for training elite professionals, handpicked from across the major regions. The campus is divided into two sections. The garrison is located on the outskirts of the city, while the heart of the military base belongs to a group of students. The sun was high in the sky. It beat down directly from overhead. The tail end of a blazing summer had not yet passed. The autumn tiger heat had arrived. A group of students in military uniforms were training under the scorching summer sun. Sweat completely soaked their clothes, but they still stood as straight as green pines, looking ahead with pride and determination as decryption majors at the National Defense University. Besides studying decryption algorithms, they also had to undergo physical training. It had been half a month since enrollment. I relied on the training methods Ji Jiangguo had taught me. Despite not being very strong, I managed to hold on until now. The food at school was much better than outside, even though school conditions in 1983 weren't that great. Eating meat at home used to be a luxury for me, especially since my parents gave everything. All the good things to Song Jinian. I only got to eat vegetable scraps and slept on a damp balcony, but since coming to school. Because I was getting proper nutrition, I started to grow taller. I looked full of energy. My eyes were bright and clear, so different from the soulless boy I was before, who could have collapsed from sheer grief at any moment. I had a completely different aura now. Back then, when I first met the teacher from the admissions office, I was struck by his commanding presence now, it seems. The military truly molds a person, surrounded by those with the character of true soldiers. Who has the time to think about romance? Military training lasted for 3 months. I gradually adapted to the rhythm of university life, physical training during the day, and studying in the library at night. I am majoring in decryption. The situation I will face in the future will be incredibly harsh. Furthermore, my identity must remain a secret. I will become a truly invisible person. Every decryption student is a precious asset to the nation. I deeply cherish this rare learning environment. There are no biased parents here, no Ji Yunshu who had a change of heart, only the drive to study hard and to serve my country. I devoured knowledge in the library like a hungry tiger. I did not even want to leave late at night. Many other students were there with me, coming from every corner of the motherland. All of them were top scholars in their own regions. I was originally ranked first in my county, but now I feel an immense amount of pressure because every classmate around me is a gifted child of destiny, carrying a burning heart to serve their country late that night. I reluctantly left the library, marveling at the vast number of books here. It was like a boundless ocean, even if I spent my whole life in the library. I could never read every single one of them. Luckily, right now I am only focusing on my studies, focusing on the basics of the decryption major, trying to preview the lessons before the teachers start them. The night was as cold as water. I walked along a narrow path. I stopped for a moment to gaze at the sky. Images of my family flashed through my mind now that I have left. Perhaps I will never return home again. Their family of 4 must be living very well when I first arrived at school, even though I was completely disappointed in them. I still could not help but feel a sense of longing, being in a foreign land. It is unavoidable to miss your family, but as time went by, the voices of my parents and Ji Yunshu gradually faded away, aside from the occasional passing thought. There were no more ripples in my heart, as of now. My feelings for Ji Yunshu are no longer as intense as they once were. I'm not exactly friendless at university either, besides my 5 roommates. I also got to know Lin Qiangxia from Beijing. This girl is very special. Her personality is the complete opposite of Ji Yunshu's. She's enthusiastic and open-minded. Sometimes she seems like a well-protected greenhouse flower, but her personal abilities are incredibly strong, especially her understanding of the decryption major. She's the most brilliant classmate I have ever met. Lin Qiangxia has been the campus belle since she arrived, although there's no ban on dating at the National Defense University. She definitely caught the attention of many boys. Some said she came from a prominent family in a big city. Others said she was only here to boost her credentials and that she would leave before long. I did not care about any of that. I was just used to being by myself, but no one expected Lin Qiangxia to take the initiative and seek me out and show her interest in me. This caught everyone else by surprise, and it left me quite speechless as well as I walked to the dormitory entrance. I saw a slender figure standing there. She was looking at me with a smile. Lin Qiangxia was very proactive with me, not necessarily in a romantic way, mostly to discuss our major, but waiting at the dorm entrance at midnight. It was quite scandalous given the context of the time. The boys returning to the dorm couldn't help but look our way. Their eyes were filled with mischievous grins. I just wanted to turn around and leave, but seeing Lin Qiangxia look as though if we didn't talk, she would stand there forever. I had no choice but to brace myself and step forward. Lin Qiangxia handed me a notebook. Her smile was as radiant as a flower. "Student Ye, these are my study notes." I looked at the red notebook, hesitating whether or not to accept it. I truly was eager to learn, and I knew Lin Qiangxia's professional skills were top tier. Classes hadn't even officially started yet, and she already knew the decryption major like the back of her hand. She could truly be called a genius in the field. The two of us met at the library, while other students were still caught up in the excitement. Strolling around the campus grounds, I preferred to be alone, sitting in a corner, reading books, the reason I was able to get into Peking University. Besides my own intelligence, was that I had a great teacher? The story about my teacher is something I never told my family. Not even Ji Yunshu was an exception, when Master Niu Peng was gravely ill. There was no one to help him. When I was 11, I was also framed by Song Jinian and kicked out of the house. One old, one young, we met in a ruined temple. Using my young body, I followed Master Niu Peng's instructions. He told me to go up the back mountain to pick medicinal herbs. I nearly fell to my death several times. Thanks to that, Master Niu Peng survived. From then on, I enjoyed going to the ruined temple to find him. Over time, Master Niu Peng began to treat me as his true disciple. He told me that knowledge could change one's destiny, that I must study hard. He knew far more than any high school teacher, much deeper, so his level of instruction was much higher, under Master Niu Peng's tutelage. I gradually became a child of character, independent and eager to learn, even though I was treated so unfairly at home. I still maintained a kind heart and a belief in serving my country. This was the core reason why I didn't lose my way and why I could persist until this very moment. Master Niu Peng had endured so many tribulations. He used his actions to teach me a lesson that no hardship could ever break him. It's just a shame that Master Niu Peng passed away right after the college entrance exams. He died on a rainy night. I had intended to bring him the good news, that I had been accepted into Peking University, but when I stepped into the ruined temple, I only found a cold, decaying body. That night, I buried Master Niu Peng all by myself on the back mountain. I took the jade pendant he gave me and left. At that moment, I lost the only adult who ever cared about me. I also lost a lifelong mentor. I was in unbearable pain back then. The only person I could lean on was Ji Yunshu. But on that very same day, Ji Yunshu told me to trade my Peking University spot for a marriage certificate. My world felt like it was collapsing after losing Master Niu Peng. Was I to lose everything else too? And so, I went through the depths of despair. Finally, I decided to live for myself. I changed my choice from Peking University to the National Defense University, wanting to devote my entire life to my country. I carried a simple woven bag containing a few sets of old, worn-out clothes and the jade pendant Master Niu Peng had left behind. I left that place of heartbreak, and while in the library, the person I missed the most was Master Niu Peng. Occasionally, I would take out the pendant to honor his memory. Lin Qiangxia barged in at that moment. Her eyes were fixed intently on that jade pendant. Her eyes were incredibly bright. I naturally knew that besides her beauty. She also had a special status. I heard Lin Qiangxia was escorted to the university in a jeep, with school leaders personally there to welcome her. Since seeing that pendant, Lin Qiangxia had been sticking to me. Unlike the shyness of other girls, her personality was very open and disregarded the rules even. Waiting outside the male dormitory at night, she could completely ignore the stares of others. Looking at the notebook she held out, I let out a silent sigh. I felt the need to be clear with Lin Qiangxia after accepting the notebook. I looked into Lin Qiangxia's shining eyes with a serious expression. "Student Lin, please do not come looking for me anymore." Lin Qiangxia was stunned. Immediately after, her eyes began to redden. She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. Finally, she bowed her head and gave a soft "Mom." She did not say anything, but the emotions she expressed were incredibly intense. I suppressed the pity in my heart and watched her walk away. Right now, I just want to focus on my studies and serve my country. I never even considered the idea of falling in love since that night. Lin Qiangxia stopped coming to see me once military training was over. The freshmen were given a day to rest. Most people chose to leave the campus and head into town. Freshmen at the National Defense University, besides, not having to pay a single cent in tuition, also received a 10 yuan monthly living allowance. In 1983, this was quite a significant amount of money. I did not spend my money recklessly. Instead, I stayed behind as usual. At the library, studying decryption major knowledge, Lin Qiangxia sat down across from me. She pulled a jade pendant from her pocket. It was identical to mine, only mine was a dragon pendant, while hers was a phoenix pendant. "This is a pair of dragon and phoenix pendants. I am your fiancée, Lin Qiangxia." That one sentence almost sent me tumbling to the floor. The library fell into a deep silence for several minutes. As a student of the new era, I despised the idea of an arranged engagement, especially after being hurt by Ji Yunshu. My desires for love had become much more rational. I did not want some vague, nebulous romance, it must be said. That Lin Qiangxia was incredibly bold. If this were a few years ago, she would have been locked away, seen as a female delinquent in the eyes of others, and sent to a reform class for rogues. I took a deep breath, steadying my emotions. I shook my head, with a stern look on my face. "Student Line, please be mindful of your reputation. We came to the National Defense University to study, to serve our country and its people, not to engage in romance. We didn't know each other before, so there is no engagement between us, is there?" I had reminded Lin Qiangxia very clearly. "Don't say another word, or we'll be having a talk with the instructor." Lin Qiangxia also seemed to realize her words were out of line. If word got out, it would cause a very negative impact. But after several days of thinking, she still decided to tell me the truth. She pointed at the jade pendant and told me a story. This jade pendant is part of a pair kept by her father and an old friend of his. They promised that if they each had a child of the opposite sex, they would become in-laws. If they were of the same sex, they would be sworn siblings. Many years went by. Lin Qiangxia's father never forgot that promise. It's just a pity that the old friend was sent to labor reform due to certain issues. His whereabouts became unknown. They thought they would never see that jade pendant again. Lin Qiangxia had no intention of getting married, which is why she enrolled in the National Defense University. Who knew fate could be so miraculous? To see the dragon pendant around my neck in the library, after hearing Lin Qiangxia's story, I fell into a deep silence. It doesn't seem unreasonable either, with Master Niu Peng's level of knowledge. He clearly wasn't from around here. He must have had a very powerful background. It's just a pity he was a victim of the times. I don't know why. Master Niu Peng didn't leave after being cleared of charges, but chose to stay in that ruined temple instead, living a life like a hermit. No wonder Master Niu Peng had such a strange look on his face when he gave me the jade pendant. Only now do I finally understand. It turns out it was a token of betrothal. Normally, when faced with someone from such a good family, a fiancé who could be a stepping stone for the future like her would be a godsend for anyone. But after the trauma I suffered from Ji Yunshu, I no longer believe in love. At the National Defense University, if people have any feelings for each other, it can only be revolutionary camaraderie. I hesitated for a moment before handing the dragon jade pendant to Lin Qiangxia. I am not his son. If I had known it was this important, I wouldn't have accepted it. Now, it's only right to return it to its owner. As for the marriage you mentioned, let's just forget about it. Without giving Lin Qiangxia a chance to explain, I stood up and walked away. Lin Qiangxia sat on the bench, watching the two pieces of jade fit together, perfectly forming a full moon, feeling very hurt and wronged in her heart. I don't know why, but after Lin Qiangxia met me, she felt that I was different from everyone else, an unusually independent aura. In my eyes, besides a firm revolutionary faith, there was also a faint touch of melancholy. It's a look never seen in people of the same age, like an endless abyss, where one would fall just by getting close. Lin Qiangxia held the jade pendant toward the window. The night sky above the library was beautiful. The parasol trees by the sports field, those leaves seemed as if they hadn't received autumn's invitation, still full of life and vitality. I returned to the dormitory, sat on the balcony, and looked up at the sky, lost in silent thought. I thought I should focus entirely on my studies and stay away from Lin Qiangxia. Military training ended, and academic classes began. In an era where everything was waiting to be rebuilt, students were hungry for knowledge. They possessed a powerful faith and a pure, untainted soul. Besides pushing myself in my academic studies, I also maintained regular physical training, ran into Lin Qiangxia a few times in the cafeteria. We would both just nod in greeting and pass each other by. There were rumors before that our relationship was unusual. The instructor almost came to talk to us about it, but before long we became distant, and the matter eventually died down. Most of the boys breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that a flower like Ling Qiangxia shouldn't belong to anyone. That day, I was running on the field as usual when I suddenly stopped and looked ahead. My face darkened instantly. It was her, Ji Yunshu. The moment she saw me appear, all of her attention was immediately captured, and she couldn't help but walk toward me. But a small action of mine made Ji Yunshu's face turn pale instantly. The boy who once relied on her so much, the boy whose face used to light up with happiness at the sight of her, actually took several steps back. This was a psychological defense typical of facing an enemy. Ji Yunshu felt as if a giant hole had been ripped in her heart, so painful she could hardly breathe. Her face was filled with bitterness. Did I really loathe her this much now? Ji Yunshu suppressed the bitterness in her soul and stepped forward again, only for me to step back once more, with an expression of utter devastation. Tu Vian. Before Ji Yunshu could speak, I coldly interrupted her. Sister, this is school. Mind your influence. A flash of shock crossed Ji Yunshu's deep eyes. Why did these words sound so familiar? She suddenly remembered when I got into Peking University, and excitedly ran to share the news with her. What she had said then, she had instinctively kept her distance, telling me it was in the courtyard, and that I had to mind the influence. Ji Yunshu felt a wave of grievance, finally feeling the same sadness I had felt back then. A look of deep sorrow flashed in her eyes. Ji Yunshu took a deep breath, trying her best to stay composed. Tu Vian, you just left silently. Do you really want to cut ties with me completely? Hearing this, my expression remained calm. I didn't argue, but that indifferent attitude stabbed a painful wound into Ji Yunshu's heart. She also understood my meaning, living in a family devoid of love, forced to give away all the best things. One sacrifice meant a lifetime of yielding. I had already reached despair. Only by erasing my identity and staying anonymous for life could I avoid ever being contacted again. How desperate must one be to make such a decision? Ji Yunshu felt her heart ache just thinking about it. But I had lived that cruel life for over a decade. How could she even have the face to ask? If I hadn't left in secret, the outcome would surely have been being driven to death. Ji Yunshu looked up, wanting to pat my head like she did when I was small, but her hand hovered uselessly in midair, facing my cold, indifferent gaze. Her mental world was severely wounded once again. I'm sorry. Thousands of words condensed into one apology. Ji Yunshu didn't know what else to say. I looked up at the sky. A long while later, I looked back at the tree by the field. My mind flashed back to when I was 11, kicked out by my parents sitting under a tree crying. Back then, Ji Yunshu was like an angel, bringing me a new sense of hope. But it was precisely because of this hope that I was pushed into the abyss. Even now, my heart still aches with a dull pain. I withdrew my gaze, my eyes becoming firm and resolute, staring directly at Ji Yunshu. If you came here to help Song Jinian get his spot at Beta, then I'm sorry, but the die is cast. I cannot give it up. Ji Yunshu's expression changed drastically. She shook her head frantically. No, Tu Vian, I only came to visit you. She really wanted to tell me that everything before was a misunderstanding, that it wasn't that she didn't like me, nor that she didn't accept me, but recalling her wrongdoings during that time, there were many things she truly lacked the face to say. If you finished your visit, then you can go back. I didn't want any contact with Ji Yunshu. Seeing her face only reminded me of the pain 6 months ago. It took me half a year to finally soothe the wound. Why did she have to come and provoke me again? Ji Yunshu's body trembled, as if sensing she was about to lose me forever. She hurriedly grabbed my hand, her eyes filled with sorrow and grievance. Tu Vian, why have we become like this? Ji Yunshu's voice wavered. Her expression was one of extreme pain. I replied calmly, that is exactly what I want to ask. Why did things turn out like this? When Ji Yunshu repeatedly hurt me for Song Jinian's sake, I had questioned it loudly in my heart countless times. It doesn't matter anymore. Sister, this is the last time I will call you that. I wish you and Song Jinian eternal happiness. Don't come looking for me again. As Ji Yunshu tried to hold on further, my next words struck her like a bolt of lightning, leaving her frozen in place. I am grateful for the warmth and hope you once gave me. Please, don't make me hate you. Ji Yunshu stood rigid, her face instantly losing all color, until my figure had completely disappeared. Only then did she collapse to the ground, endless regret and sorrow surging in her heart. The iron woman who wouldn't flinch even if shot now had eyes brimming with tears, a deep agony enveloping her face. The obedient boy in her memories, with eyes full of pure admiration, could not be reconciled with the person I am now. Ji Yunshu realized with painful clarity that she was truly about to lose me. The autumn tree finally dropped a single leaf, landing right on Ji Yunshu's shoulder. Ji Yunshu had never, for a single moment, been more certain of her feelings for me, but by the time she realized it, the person was already gone. The Xiangnan weather was sweltering, yet Ji Yunshu felt the air was icy cold. Her body was numb and unable to move, staring in the direction where I had vanished. A belated, sharp heart pain finally hit her, so agonizing that the world went dark. When I left so quietly, Ji Yunshu's life felt like a vast void. The pain of losing a loved one forever washed over her. Reason returned to her mind. She could quickly see through Song Jinian's hypocrisy and find the evidence of his framing. But why? Every time I was being hurt, did she act as if she saw nothing? For 6 months, Ji Yunshu had frantically searched for news of me, not caring if she risked ruining her future. But she still couldn't penetrate. The defense of the National Defense University's decryption major? Not until Ji Jiangguo couldn't bear seeing his daughter live like a ghost did he finally call an old friend at the Defense University. Once Ji Yunshu learned of my whereabouts, she immediately rushed there. She thought that after meeting and explaining everything, things could return to how they were. But when she met me and saw my calm and indifferent eyes, Ji Yunshu realized just how naive she had been. The way I looked at her no longer held the admiration of the past. The boy who was willing to share everything, the boy who relied on her so much had vanished with the wind, replaced by a me who was a complete stranger. Ji Yunshu wanted to explain several times, but thinking of her past actions, she couldn't bring herself to speak. She could only let me walk away, like the autumn leaves that must finally return to the earth. She stood under that tree for a long time, staring down at the fallen leaves on the ground, remembering that year when she held my hand and said they would never be apart. Pity that she was the one who broke the promise. The hurt she caused me far surpassed anything Song Jinian did. At this moment, Ji Yunshu looked utterly lost, her heart in deep agony. She could sense that before I left, toward her and the family, I had become completely and hopelessly disillusioned. I didn't return to the dormitory, but wandered around the campus instead. I simply didn't want to face Ji Yunshu. My university life was supposed to be peaceful, but Ji Yunshu's appearance stirred up the waters again. My mind was in a total mess. I unconsciously walked to the library, looked at the locked doors, and sat down on the steps, bathed in the cold, distant moonlight. My body trembling slightly. When I was 11, it was Ji Yunshu who gave me new hope. I spent 7 years loving her. Pity that at 18, it was Ji Yunshu who personally destroyed all my expectations. Now she has come to the school, claiming it was all just a misunderstanding, but the memories of being hurt keep flashing through my mind. I don't know if I can still believe in Ji Yunshu. The moment I met Ji Yunshu, I knew very clearly. I thought I had severed all emotions, but I still feel a deep sadness. I haven't completely let go after all. Right then, a pair of long legs appeared before me, radiating a warm glow under the moonlight. I slowly looked up and saw Lin Qiangxia standing there. Lin Qiangxia sat down beside me, both of us looking up at the night sky. Just speak it out. You'll feel better in your heart. I had so many words bottled up inside, with no one to talk to. Hiding so much pain over these years had almost driven me mad. Lin Qiangxia's presence, though we weren't close, gave me a true sense of security. Under the moonlight, I told her my story. The biased parents, the betraying fiancé, and a broken version of myself. My voice was soft, as if I were talking about someone else entirely. Lin Qiangxia rested her chin in her hand, listening in silence. One telling the story calmly, one listening quietly. Time seemed to stand still in that moment. Do you still love her? After I finished my story, Lin Qiangxia turned her head, her beautiful eyes flashing with curiosity. In my calm voice, I couldn't hide a bit of uncertainty. I thought I would be very confused, unable to answer such a question, but for some reason the answer came to me instantly. No, I truly don't love her anymore. When disappointment piles up to the extreme, my feelings for kinship and love had long become immune. Lin Qiangxia didn't expect me to answer so quickly. She was stunned for a long while. Then a smile broke across her face, radiant like a firework display, bringing me a sense of complete warmth. I have to say, I like being with someone like Lin Qiangxia. Then you should tell her. Only by cutting off the past can you move toward the future. Lin Qiangxia stood up and patted my shoulder. Go back and get some sleep. Tomorrow will be better. I unknotted the tie in my heart and fell asleep immediately upon returning to the dorm. When I woke up, the morning sun was shining on my face. My entire body felt light and relieved. Over the next few days, I attended classes as usual, but I kept running into Ji Yunshu. Whether it was on the way to the classroom or the cafeteria, even during evening self-study, we would cross paths on the road. Ji Yunshu would stand silently by the roadside, watching me with a tender and longing gaze. That imposing military uniform and her cold yet beautiful face became a notable sight across the entire campus. Gradually, people noticed the connection between Ji Yunshu and me. In late 1983, conservative social attitudes were still prevalent. Relationship matters could easily be scrutinized as conduct issues. Rumors started to fly. On the 6th evening after Ji Yunshu arrived at the university, sweltering Xiangnan finally saw a cold rain. I was reading in my dormitory room when my roommate said a woman had been standing outside for ages. I knew immediately who it was. After a long silence, I finally stood up and went downstairs. I thought it was time to speak clearly with Ji Yunshu, to settle everything once and for all. Reaching the ground floor, seeing her graceful figure blurred by the rain, I took a deep breath and stepped forward. This first autumn rain brought a biting chill. The silhouette in the misty rain stood below the dorm, letting herself get soaked to the bone, with nothing left but eyes full of love and helplessness. Watching me as I approached, I looked at the girl standing before me, and my heart was incredibly calm. Before, if Ji Yunshu was even slightly unhappy, I would have plucked the moon from the sky to make her smile. Now that Ji Yunshu was so pained and so utterly miserable, I still remained indifferent, even feeling a little bit annoyed. Belated deep affection is cheaper than common grass. The love I spent years carefully nurturing, the woman I swore to protect for a lifetime, had lost its meaning through her repeated favoritism. Once I severed all my emotional ties and entered the decryption major to serve my country, Ji Yunshu tells me it was all just a misunderstanding. Perhaps our very meeting was a beautiful misunderstanding. I placed the umbrella over Ji Yunshu's head, reaching out to wipe the raindrops from her face. That gentle gesture of mine made Ji Yunshu's eyes light up. It's not worth it. I shook my head, a look of liberation on my face, looking past Ji Yunshu's shoulder at the tree hidden behind the curtain of rain. Thank you for everything you did for me. You were the one who helped me through the coldest winter. In those years, I was truly in despair. More pained even than Master during the struggle years. But it was also you who disappointed me bit by bit. Don't try to hide the things you've done. The scars will always be there. They won't just disappear. Ji Yunshu, look at the way you are now. You are no longer the person I worshipped and admired. Ji Yunshu's expression shifted drastically. Her pale lips trembled violently, her throat making a shaky, choked sound. She shook her head desperately. She wanted to tell me that she was still that sister in my heart, but facing my calm and cold gaze, thousands of words caught in her throat. She couldn't utter a single syllable. I helped her wipe the water from her face, even though the person was right there. Ji Yunshu felt like I was slipping away. Ji Yunshu desperately wanted to hold on to me, but my words were like nails, being driven into her heart until it was bleeding profusely. Her entire world turned the color of blood. Tu viens, I'm sorry. I took a week's leave. I only have this 1 week to visit you. If you don't want to be disturbed, I will just watch you from afar. I'll be leaving tomorrow, but can you please give me one more chance? Ji Yunshu wiped away her tears with a look of desperate hope. I didn't answer her, just silently watched her face, letting her weep in pain, without feeling a single thing. They both seemed to realize something at that moment. Ji Yunshu's body swayed as if she might fall, and she closed her eyes in agony. Seeing her cry no longer moved my heart, which meant I no longer loved Ji Yunshu. I left the umbrella for Ji Yunshu and turned to walk back to the dorm. I wanted to settle everything with Ji Yunshu this time, hoping we would never have to meet again. Ji Yunshu, Song Jinian, and my biased parents. The four of them can be happy together. Only the redundant one, me, will serve my country. I don't regret it. This is my choice, and it is also my fate. After severing all my feelings, I must light a lamp for my own path. Ji Yunshu threw the umbrella aside and rushed to hug me tightly from behind. Her voice was filled with desperation. Tu viens, don't leave me. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I didn't struggle. Just letting Ji Yunshu hold me and closed my eyes. I don't know how much time passed, but the heavy rain finally stopped. A bright moon broke through the clouds. Cold moonlight fell on the tree by the field. The clouds parted to reveal the moon. Ji Yunshu was hugging my shadow, as if frozen in that singular moment. Ji Yunshu slowly let go, but her heart felt like it was being torn apart. I took a step forward without looking back. Ji Yunshu was completely heartbroken, kneeling on the ground, crying in agony. She felt that she had lost me forever. Now she felt the same despair I felt back then. It was a feeling that gnawed at her bones, something she would never forget. She understood now. She regretted it, but it was too late. Her leave finally came to an end. Ji Yunshu left the National Defense University. The day she left, she didn't come to say goodbye. She knew I wouldn't see her again anyway, and understood that I had severed all my feelings. Ji Yunshu realized more than ever how wrong she had been. In fact, before she even arrived, she was already holding the marriage registration form. All it needed was for me to sign my name, and we would be legally husband and wife. But things developed beyond her expectations. From my attitude, she could see that, let alone registering the marriage, even facing each other normally, could never return to the way it was before. Her heart was completely shattered, but she could find no excuse for it. It was she herself who had driven me away, during those nights of helpless despair, rubbing salt into my wounds. Now she truly feels the same agonizing pain of despair. So, to truly love someone is to choose not to disturb them. Ji Yunshu would not give up on me. She would find her own way to atone and make amends, using her actions to tell me that she was still the neighbor Nuna who once held my hand and told me that I would never be alone in this world. The day I left, the sky was gloomy. Sitting on the train heading back, watching the city gradually shrink away, Ji Yunshu closed her eyes. When she opened them again, a cold light flickered in her gaze. Everyone who bullied me must pay the price, including herself. I didn't know what Ji Yunshu was thinking, nor did I have any interest. After making everything clear, I returned to my normal student life. My life consisted of nothing but studying and physical training. For the first half of the year, I was always alone. But then, Lin Qiangjia appeared by my side. Since that night, I had realized one thing. I couldn't live for the sake of others' opinions, nor could I be held back by emotions. In the past, I couldn't let go, craving my parents' affection and Ji Yunshu's recognition, which only led me to torment myself relentlessly. Therefore, I no longer longed for that biased and cold-blooded family because they weren't worth it. Ignoring the gazes of outsiders, I walked alongside Lin Qianxia. Being together didn't mean there was love, of course. It was purely about learning from each other. Lin Qianxia definitely came from a very good family. She knew so much and could obtain the latest study materials. When Lin Qianxia pulled a book on computer programming from her bag and taught me how computers could be used for decryption, I keenly realized that I had to seize this opportunity. From then on, Lin Qianxia stayed by my side with peace of mind, using her family's resources to help me find the most advanced decryption materials. I would also help Lin Qianxia with whatever was within my power. To outsiders, we looked like a couple in love. And so gradually the students stopped gossiping and whispering behind our backs. The social atmosphere at the university back then was quite liberal. Everyone was young and open to new ideas, especially university students who were broad-minded and welcomed new waves of thought. Couples began to appear throughout the campus. The instructor only held one class meeting to remind everyone to maintain boundaries and then stopped interfering. Thus, Lin Qianxia and I stayed together, bound by a sense of revolutionary camaraderie, perfectly natural and justified. A photograph of the two of us studying shoulder to shoulder in the library appeared in the compound thousands of miles away. In a darkened room, Ji Yunshu sat on the sofa with her head bowed. Empty liquor bottles were strewn across the floor. The air was thick with the heavy scent of alcohol. This was the second time she had drunk since joining the army. The first time was the day I confessed my feelings to her. She had drunk a lot and spent the entire night hesitating. The second time was now, seeing me with Lin Qianxia, which brought a deep ache to her heart. An angry roar echoed from the room next door. Your parents were punishing Song Jinian. His filthy and dark schemes had been exposed, and his reputation was completely ruined. Forget about finding a job in a factory. Even for manual labor, no one wanted him. With no means of survival, Song Jinian could only stay and sponge off the Ai family. Unfortunately, the Ai parents would no longer tolerate him. However much he had framed me in the past, he now had to face a punishment 100,000 times worse. Unable to bear the torment, Song Jinian knelt before Ji Yunshu, begging for help. Ji Yunshu's punishment was even harsher than that of the Ai parents. From then on, Song Jinian lived a life worse than death. They were all seeking revenge for me in their own ways, hoping for forgiveness. But did I even care? The Ai parents aged visibly, their faces etched with constant regret and sorrow, living in misery. Ji Yunshu refused her promotion and stayed in the army, simply waiting for an opportunity. Time slipped by, and in a flash, more than 3 years had passed. Song Jinian was tormented until only half his life remained. He had dark circles under his eyes every day, his mind extremely unstable. He had truly fallen into depression. Every night after tormenting Song Jinian, the Ai parents would hide in their room and cry. The two elders missed their son. They had cried, knelt, and begged, but Ji Yunshu still would not tell them. That was the punishment they deserved. Finally, the graduation season of the National Defense University arrived. On that day, Ji Yunshu received a phone call and hurried out of the compound. Now it was her turn to seek redemption. Everyone, to your positions. This mission is extremely important. No mistakes are allowed. In the summer of 1987, recent graduates across the country launched a movement to support the vast Northwest region, but it also brought numerous security challenges. In those days, passing the university entrance exam was a matter of great pride for one's ancestors. Therefore, every single talent was incredibly precious to the country. The decryption major of the National Defense University was no exception. However, they did not follow the usual path. Instead, they established a research and development center in the Northwest to secretly conduct research on computer decryption. This was a top-secret mission, crucial to future modernized warfare. Thus, after this batch of defense students graduated, they were deployed directly to the Northwest, where hostile foreign forces saw them as a thorn in their side, seeking every way to sabotage them. The higher-ups specially arranged a Special Forces brigade for escort. Ji Yunshu was the commander of this escort mission, always staying hidden in the shadows to avoid being detected by the enemy. Wearing her military uniform, she stood on the hilltop, watching the convoy pass beneath her feet, her gaze as sharp as a blade. But when she looked at the leading vehicle, her eyes softened. Ji Yunshu had achieved many merits over the past few years, but she refused promotion, only waiting for an opportunity. When the decryption department of the National Defense University had to go to the Northwest, she immediately applied for the escort mission. Ever since I left the compound, Ji Yunshu felt that staying there was no longer meaningful. She wanted to be the sister who had once protected me, wanting to tell me that she had never changed. Her so-called redemption was to protect me in secret. Furthermore, arriving there meant a chance to be near me. This was the only thing Ji Yunshu could do. Inside the convoy, I gazed out the window at the endless Gobi Desert. The deeper we went into the northwest, the harsher the environment became. I finally experienced the hardships of the world outside the university, realizing that the training at school compared to this current environment was nothing at all. 4 years of university had changed me significantly, making me more mature and composed. I graduated at the top of my class, becoming the most outstanding representative of this batch of students. Coming to the northwest this time carried a difficult mission. During the journey, I felt the convoy stop several times, but it quickly returned to normal. I didn't know that several attacks had occurred outside, all of which were repelled by the escort team. By the time the convoy entered the R&D center, the original escort of 200 had dwindled to just over 100, showing how fierce the battles had been along the way. Once everyone arrived, there was no time to rest. We immediately got to work. Arriving at the R&D center, I quickly discovered that the communication equipment was outdated and immediately submitted a report to have it replaced. In school, I had written many influential papers that were enlightening for national defense information security. The superiors put me in charge of the team, not just to train me, but also to elevate national defense information security to a new level. I did not disappoint their expectations. Within just 3 months, I completely transformed the R&D center and upgraded cryptographic defense capabilities by an entire level. I had only been working for 3 months when I earned a first-class merit. When I worked, I often felt someone watching me from behind, but every time I turned around, no one was there. I thought it was just hallucinations from exhaustion. Once, a storm in the Gobi Desert destroyed a crucial communication station. I was conducting an important experiment, and in the urgency, I rushed out to help. The rain was torrential, and the situation was extremely dangerous, but I risked everything to save it. I finally repaired the station, but I fell into a trap myself and got stuck in a cave. I fell into the cave on my way back. With the storm raging, it was almost impossible to contact the outside world. I was in there for 3 days. Just as I was on the brink of death, my vision blurred and I seemed to see a flash of light. From within that light, a familiar figure stepped out and pulled me up, climbing out step by step. The person's figure wasn't burly, but their whole body was brimming with strength. Reaching the top of the cave, I took my first breath of outside air. The feeling of surviving such a disaster was wonderful, so I wanted to thank my rescuer. Regrettably, the person just set me down, handed me over to the medics, and disappeared. I wanted to call them back, but I had no strength left and quickly fell into a coma. I stayed in the medical room for 3 days, and as soon as I recovered, I went everywhere searching for my savior. But everyone kept their mouths shut. The director of the R&D center personally came to find me, telling me to focus on my research. Protecting researchers was their natural duty, and I shouldn't worry too much. Anyone would have done the same. I nodded, not thinking much of it, but I heard from others about the existence of that Special Forces unit. They had been silently protecting us since we left the university gates. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. I successfully developed the second-generation communication system, significantly improving the military's informationized warfare capabilities. Because of this, I became the deputy director of the R&D center. The day I left the Gobi Desert, the director specially invited me for a drink and told me a cruel truth. Because of the importance of communication research, the R&D center was frequently attacked by the enemy. Over the past 3 years, the enemy lurking in the shadows had launched at least 70 attacks, all of which were successfully repelled. But because of that, many comrades had sacrificed their lives. Fortunately, we succeeded, shattering the enemy's plots and fulfilling the mission entrusted to us by the organization. Now you can move on to a grander stage to accomplish even tougher tasks. The director took out a photograph and placed it on the table. He hesitated for a moment, his voice growing low. I didn't originally want to tell you, fearing it would distract you, but since you're leaving, I won't hide it any longer. The Special Forces Brigade assigned to this protection mission has lost over 200 people. I shuddered, my eyes turning red. I raised my glass to toast them. The director nodded and sighed. You must be very familiar with Regiment Commander G, right? Regiment Commander G? My gaze was filled with doubt. I didn't know any Regiment Commander G. I don't know why, but Ji Yunshu's silhouette flashed through my mind. I quickly shook my head and smiled bitterly to myself. Ji Yunshu must still be at the compound, probably married to Song Jinian by now, with children old enough to go buy soy sauce. How could she possibly be in the Gobi Desert on a mission? But the director's next words hit me like a thunderbolt. It turned out Regiment Commander G was indeed Ji Yunshu, and she had been silently protecting me for 3 years. That time I fell into the cave. It was Ji Yunshu who braved immense danger to pull me out, injuring her leg in the process. Later, during several assassination attempts against me, it was Regiment Commander G who protected me in secret, but she paid a heavy price for it. When the second-generation communication system was completed, the Special Forces Brigade finished their mission brilliantly and were withdrawing one by one. Ji Yunshu, due to her long time fighting on the front lines against hostile elements, had been shot 3 times. One bullet nearly pierced her heart, almost killing her, but she still refused to leave, insisting on staying at the front. Today was the day Regiment Commander Ji was leaving. The director had likely guessed the relationship between me and her, so he kindly gave me a heads up, even though Ji Yunshu had strictly warned him not to. I looked at the photograph on the table. Unexpectedly, it was a photo of me and Lin Qiangxia, shoulder to shoulder in the library. Although Lin Qiangxia's part had been torn away, I recognized it instantly. Was Ji Yunshu really nearby? Then why hadn't we met once in the past 3 years? My expression was conflicted as I recalled the director's words. That person had taken bullets from me several times, saved me several times, but never claimed any credit, not even wanting to show her face. Ji Yunshu just hid in the shadows, silently protecting my safety. I suddenly remembered when I was 11, sitting and crying under the parasol tree. Ji Yunshu appeared like an angel, taking my hand and saying she would protect me forever. I thought that at the National Defense University, that encounter on the campus was the final one, and I would never see Ji Yunshu again. But what Ji Yunshu had done shocked me to the core. I was no longer the naive boy of the past, but thinking about her actions brought a sorrow that words couldn't express. I took a deep breath, grabbed the photo, and rushed outside. I reached the exterior of the R&D center, just in time to see a jeep driving away. I shouted toward it, "Ji Yunshu?" There was no response from the vehicle. I vaguely felt she was inside, but why didn't she answer? At that moment, inside the departing jeep, Ji Yunshu saw me rushing out through the rearview mirror. Her beautiful cold face showed a flicker of emotion, but she quickly suppressed it. The guard hesitated. "Regiment Commander Ji, should we turn back?" Ji Yunshu glanced at her empty left sleeve, closed her eyes, and said, "Keep going." While protecting me during a life-and-death struggle with the enemy, she had lost her left arm in an explosion, becoming disabled from that day on. This time, the organization had strictly arranged for her to leave, to return for treatment. Ji Yunshu had wanted to continue protecting me, but she knew that in her current state, she would only be a burden, so she could only choose to comply. She was using her own way to quietly protect my safety, regretting only that the road ahead was long and she could no longer walk it with me. Ji Yunshu's heart was filled with agony. Over the past 3 years, she had watched my busy back in the lab countless times, longing to come to my side. But whenever she thought of how much she had hurt me, she would stop in her tracks. To truly love someone is to choose not to disturb them. Besides, in her current condition, how could she be worthy of me? I deserved a better partner. Ji Yunshu left, without telling me she had come, nor telling me she was going. 10 years later, the reform and opening up had been underway for nearly 20 years. The country had undergone earth-shattering changes, especially in the development of national defense information security. The 4th generation had made tremendous progress. Through the efforts of each generation, though not yet at the leading international level, it maintained a high speed of development. As a defense student who graduated in 1987, after more than 10 years of tempering, I had gone from a green graduate to a leading expert in the field of information. I dedicated all my time to the informationization of the military, becoming the youngest leader and now a top-tier expert. I was rooted deep in the desert year-round, living a hard and simple life, never enjoying any luxury. I only wanted to serve my country. My superiors, seeing me work so desperately, insisted that I take a leave of absence. Forced to leave the experimental base, I returned to the big city. Due to my sensitive and special status, I was always accompanied by security personnel and an escort jeep. But I didn't like this display, so after reporting to the chief, I left on my own with just a guard. The first place I visited was the National Defense University to attend the graduation ceremony of the class of '98. Standing on stage to give a speech, I saw a sea of green, fresh-faced students below, their eyes filled with admiration. As a prominent figure in the field of decryption, having become a major figure sitting alongside the president before even reaching 40, I was an idol to the students. Looking into those admiring eyes, I remembered how I once looked at Ji Yunshu. More than 10 years had passed, and my love for Ji Yunshu had long since faded. My memories of Ji Yunshu stopped at the jeep driving away in the Gobi Desert. 10 years had gone by, yet there was no news of her. I had once called Ji Yunshu's unit, hoping to express my gratitude, but they said she had chosen to be discharged and was no longer in the military. Sitting on the rostrum, watching the students below, they were the future of our national defense, just as I had been. But my mind wandered back to my hometown. I wanted to visit Ji Yunshu. I didn't know why, but after being forced to take a leave, I felt like I had to do something. It wasn't about wanting a romance with her. At this age, I had long since dedicated my life to the party and the people. I left the National Defense University and immediately returned to my hometown. I didn't disturb anyone, going to the old compound and standing under that parasol tree. More than 10 years later, The tree was still the same, but the ground beneath was now paved with asphalt instead of the old yellow earth. The compound hadn't been renovated, still showing its red bricks and blue tiles. I stood outside the yard, looking toward where I used to live. I didn't miss my biased parents. They had Song Jinian. Even if I died out there, they probably wouldn't shed a single tear. Coming home this time, besides visiting Ji Jiangguo, I also wanted to thank Ji Yunshu in person. Regrettably, after asking around, I learned Ji Jiangguo had been transferred and had left the city. As for Ji Yunshu's discharge, no one seemed to know the details. She might have followed him up north. Even the parents I least wanted to see had moved away for some reason. I felt a weight lifted, but I couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. My time was limited, and my heart was set on returning to work, so I didn't stay long. I went back under that parasol tree and stood there for a long time. While there, I received a phone call. It was my wife, Lin Qiangxia. "You've been away for so long. Now that you have leave, why don't you come home? Our son misses you so much." "Papa." Hearing my son's voice, my stern face softened into a gentle smile. I hung up and got in the car to leave. A breeze blew past and a leaf fell from the tree. Autumn had arrived. I didn't realize that inside Ji Yunshu's house, at the window, a silhouette was quietly watching me depart. Ji Yunshu hadn't gone with Ji Jiangguo. She had stayed in the compound to wait. She didn't even know what she was waiting for, but she waited nonetheless. Yet, when I actually returned, Ji Yunshu didn't have the courage to face me. She could only stand in the shadows, just like her silent protection in the Gobi Desert. Before, she had no dignity to see me. Now, she had no courage. All Ji Yunshu could do was offer her blessings. Only after she was sure my car had gone did she slowly walk downstairs to thank the neighbors. If it wasn't for their cover-up, I would have surely discovered the truth. She carried a basket to the cemetery. This is the grave of the Ai family's parents. Not far from there lies a lonely grave.